Hi, my name is Andrew Kinnear. I'm the founder of Freebruary. Thanks for joining us for this limited interview series with entrepreneurs from across Canada. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, my name is Elisabeth Burrow, and I am owner and artisan roaster of Jewels Under the Kilt. So I grow and roast nuts for a living.
Thanks for joining us today, Elisabeth. It's great to have you here for this interview. Tell me a bit about where you are physically right now.
So physically, I'm sitting in my little farmhouse in Fergus, Ontario.
In Fergus, Ontario. Great. So you're made in Ontario nuts. Amazing.
I am.
So tell me a bit about Jewels Under the Kilt.
So Jewels Under the Kilt is, well, first of all, we're a very inclusive company. So from our nuts and our bags to basically my little CEO, everybody that's working now, because we hired a slew of people over 2020 and 2021, are either women over 50. We have our goal here on the farm is to have children with disabilities find a place to have a job. So we hired two young boys who work the orchards with us, and then inside my kitchen we have another couple of young people who have disabilities but are working out great in our kitchen. We started the company as a sustainable life for my daughter, who has what I call up syndrome, because believe me, my daughter is never down. Although they are just like other kids, they have their moments. She's my CEO and nuts cracker, the one and only. That's one of her roles here. We started the company because I eat a lot of nuts. And my father-in-law had a maple farm in Newmarket and was making syrup. And I am so sorry to say that I do not use maple syrup. I don't eat it. I do now because they're on my nuts, but I technically don't do pancakes and all that kind of stuff using maple. And because my daughter can't really eat pancakes, we really never got into that with the syrup, but I had a lot of it. And I was buying nuts in the grocery store, and I'm sorry, stores, but they're not very good. They can really be raunchy, and the taste is not spectacular. And to be honest, I don't even think people know what a true nut tastes like until they've had Jewels Under the Kilt.
Elisabeth, is that a function of grocery store nuts just being grown somewhere far away, and like a lot of our food, it has to travel a great distance?
So yes, so okay. It starts with how they protect people from, Salmonella, E. coli. It's how they go about it. I believe truly that it agitates those oils in the nuts. And when you activate those oils, they can tend to now start to go a little bit on the rancid side, those natural oils. Then when you crack them out of the shell, they put them in a box, and they put them in a plastic bag in a box. The nuts still generate heat. So think about them constantly cooking as they are driven here or flown here. And then they get into the stores in those same boxes, and they sit in the back, and it's in their dry storage, obviously. So then again, you still got that heat action going on, and then they go to the bulk bins. And then, so that's another plastic container where they kind of sit there. They have access to air, which also degrades. So instead of getting the full shelf life of your nuts, you're getting almost half. So that's why sometimes when people go, oh, we don't eat walnuts, because they have that bitter taste. That bitter taste is the oils picked up those tannins, because there's that filament between a walnut, which is very bitter. So think of that leaching into your nut. We don't quite do We don't quite do that kind of irradiation, oxygenation, which is very typical for countries other than Canada.
Okay.
We have different processes, and most of that takes the shell into consideration. It doesn't affect the meat inside. Okay. We look at packaging that won't cause that heat to happen with the nuts. We use the maple as a preservative, so it's our patented process. We don't use it as a sweetener, which everybody thinks. We use it as a preservative. So it actually preserves the full nutritional value of my nut. Those oils are still in there, still fresh. So when you eat one of my nuts, you can taste the nut. Probably for the first time, you go, holy, the pecan is so sweet. It's the meat. The meat is very sweet, especially when you've protected it. And then all of that syrup really comes off the nuts. So typically one bag is 3 grams of sugar per serving, which in terms of a walnut, that's 12 whole walnuts.
Right.
Okay. I personally can't possibly eat 12 whole walnuts. So you're even going to cut that back even more because you're going to put in maybe 6. Although people think they're so good, they eat them like so fast, they finish the bag in like seconds, but I can't really help that part.
So your point though about the maple syrup is that the sugar is not really a factor.
It's not a factor.
It's not a factor. And
I sell a lot, I sell a lot to people who have diabetes, especially with the cinnamon, because we really curate great ingredients from the farmers or my farm to our spices. So some spices I don't make. So for instance, our new nut that I'm trialing right now, orange creamsicle almond, which is, oh my God, you're gonna love it. Because it's probably one of the only ones I'm just eating handfuls. I can't get enough.
Creamsicle is one of my most favorite flavors. I'm really
you're gonna love. So we use Madagascar vanilla. There is a company that just started sort of over 2020 to bring in vanilla from Madagascar, true Madagascar vanilla. So I get the beans, the whole beans, and I actually process them as whole beans. So I don't split them in half and scrape them. I process the whole bean. So I'm actually giving you even more nutritional value out of that vanilla bean. So we do the vanilla beans, we use fresh oranges, and we roast all of that because the beauty of the syrup allows me to use those fresh ingredients. And I create this one where you can actually taste every single flavor that's listed there. There's no fillers, no brown sugar, no burnt nuts, nothing.
So you have a number of different products in your lineup. Do you want to tell us just sort of a little highlight about each one?
So our typical, the ones that our top 8 are the ones that I started with original. So you've got maple, apple, chipotle, moonshine, mojito jalapeno pecan, and pumpkin pecan. So we have about 6 different pecans. We have a few more in the lineup and a few that I've done seasonally in the pecan realm. In our walnuts, we have cinnamon, pear ginger walnut, carrot cake walnut, and spicy Caesar, because people kept asking me for more of a savory one. So that one is loaded with habaneros that I grow myself. It's got seaweed from Nova Scotia and fresh tomatoes from we grow them, and I also get them from other farmers because I go through a lot. And we roast that right onto a walnut. So those are our walnuts. We have, in the hazelnuts, we have chocolate, we have an espresso. We now have a Cabernet because I was doing a thing with a winery here in Niagara. But I really liked the deepness of the Merlot or the Cabernet with the chocolate. So we made a Cabernet chocolate hazelnut. We have a hot chocolate.
And is it like, for that one, is it a coating, or is it more of like, that's what you're roasting it in?
That's
so it's
what
taking on the flow. Okay. So it's taking on the
so
flavor.
we actually, how it works is that, we have a beer hazelnut. I'll use the beer because that's the best example. So when I intended a beer nut, because everybody asked me for beer nuts, but beer nuts are not healthy. I mean, there are a lot of people that like them, and they've been around for centuries, and they're great at carnivals and fairs. Don't get me wrong, I love that hot peanut, but that coating on it is just horrible.
Yeah.
So I created my own. I researched craft brewers. I went on the craft brewer Facebook page, and I posed a question because everybody's very proprietary about their recipes. So my only concern is a sugar code. Now I know beers have to have a range of sugar codes just like wine. I need a sugar code that is sort of right in the middle, I guess a 2. I can't have it.
Sorry, just for the people who don't know, sugar code refers to?
It refers to the amount of sweetness in your beverage, or amount of sugar they've needed to make that beverage.
So wine does that, beer does that.
Okay, so yeah, so the sugar code represents your sweetness level. So in wine, that typically your ice wines and all of those are up in code, so more sugar, more sweetness. Too much sugar in my nuts, you'll candy them. I don't want to candy nuts. I don't candy my nuts. Although people think these are candied nuts, that's typically what they call them a lot. I don't candy. I don't use the sugar for that reason. And you really would never be able to use my nuts again if I candied them. It's a one-off. Put them in your salad. But really, if you did that, you'd lose all of the coatings on it into your salad dressing. So I designed these so you don't have that problem. So a beer has to have a code. There has to be something that's a little bit sweeter in their lineup to ones that are very, very dry. I look for that middle of the road, because that's where your flavor, in my view, that's where my flavor is going to be. So I posed the question, who would have a beer that ranges? I don't want your recipe. I don't need any of that. I just need a beer that's in that middle road. So my first run with, I have a few craft brewers I use. I've narrowed it down to the one that I'm using right now, which is a Bob Cajun. It gives the nut that peanut flavor that I want to make it a traditional beer nut. So I found my beer. We take the beer in the liquid, like it's the liquid form, and I actually turn the beer into beer sugar.
Okay.
So the end result in my roaster is what's left is your maple sugars with the beer sugars or the wine sugars. That's what happens. It all sort of ends up in the bottom and not on the nut, like the sweetness part of the nut. So when you eat this, you get the taste of that rich hazelnutty flavor. And with the variety of the hazelnut that we use and the combination of beer, you get that sort of sweet peanut beer taste. And so I work the recipes so that you can come out with that. Have a beer nut.
Is this art or science?
So I think it's a little bit of both. People have described me as being sort of a magician and artist and mad scientist, because people have tried to test me. So I had one radio station come to my farm, and on air, he literally challenged me to make a pizza nut. So I said, okay, I take the challenge. I did fresh garlic, fresh spices like oregano I had in there. I had basil. I had tomatoes.
What was your base nut? Were you using a walnut, or what was?
I did use a walnut because I needed that doughy texture. And in my view, that was the right nut to choose. So it's where the science comes is trying to figure out the nut that will be good with the ingredients to give me what I think in my head. And when I was roasting it, I swear it smelled like a pizzeria in there.
That's amazing. And did this radio station give you some kind of award or something?
No, I didn't get an award for that one. I did for nacho cheese. So I made a pecan with cheese and chipotle. At the cheese festival, it was my number one. I sold out of it the first day.
Nice.
So those are pretty much my rewards. Or seeing people's face, they go, "Oh my God, I didn't even know these can taste like this." Or I love shows for that reason, because I usually put a very hot one, because I know people are going to come while your back is turned and grab some.
Mhm.
So I put what I think are like one really hot one and then a pretty mild one on the thing. And then I watch like behind me how people take them. And as they go around my booth, I can hear them at the other end. Holy bejeebies. And then I come back and they usually buy, because they're surprised that they're not sweet. They are packed with a load of flavors that you can read literally. And that's how it all started, really. To be honest, I've never pitched a store ever. They've all been word of mouth.
That's great. That prompts me to say, let's go back to the beginning. How do you go from someone who is not running a nut farm and making these amazing flavored nuts to someone who is doing all that? What was your tipping point?
My first year, actually. So my first year, I did it because we moved to the farm. I had all that syrup. I ate a lot of nuts, and I had just come out of working in long-term care and healthcare. So when I make nuts, even just for myself, I was not making like 1 pound. I'd make 50 pounds.
And is that just because you're on the farm and there's just that much available nuts?
Well, I was at the beginning of my time, I was buying them.
Okay.
So I'd go to Bulk Barn, I'd go to these places. They were horrible to taste. I started fooling around with the syrup, and I created this patented recipe that pulled the syrup. I found out that you could put them in your salad at like 9 a.m, go to work, and they'd still be crunchy, still packed with flavor. That was important to me. They could be used because the oils and stuff aren't taken out, so I could crust. I use cinnamon walnut a lot to make chicken tenders for my daughter as an alternative to breading.
Okay.
And because the oils aren't removed from the nuts, I can cook with it. I can put it in the oven. I'm not going to burn those nuts or the dish. So I started working with it. And I found I had a lot of nuts, and I was giving them out to people who came to the farm. I hadn't planted any trees yet, although we had nut trees on the farm already. I went to my first farmer's market because I thought, oh, it'd be fun. Just do a farmer's market local.
How long ago was that?
That was 2013.
Okay. All right.
And I went to the first farmer's market, and by the end of the summer, I was in 7.
Wow.
With the nuts. And at the end of that, I didn't have a name for the company. I didn't even have bags. There was nothing. I was stickering sandwich bags. And then I did the Little Royal, which is the Erin Fall Fair, which is 3 days. So I set up my booth, and every day I sold out. Every night I had to make more. And while I was there for that day, the Royal Winter Fair called. And they said, would you like to have a booth? And I was like, oh my God, that's the show of shows for like, I've always wanted to be like a farmer and go there.
That's awesome.
Like I was like, whoa. And when I went there, oh my God, they had me like way off in the boonies, like by the petting zoo. Like I was way out of there. And then people just started finding me, and a newspaper located me, and they were all freaking about people growing nuts. And I met a ton of people that actually have them on the farm, and they never did anything with them. Nut societies were popping up and asking me to join. And I was like, oh my God. And I sent nuts to Nunavut the first year. I
Wow.
was shipping out with illegal bags. I'm telling you, I did everything wrong. And by that point, I was still roasting up at the arena. I was roasting nuts. I'd come, spend 2 hours cleaning the place, and making my nuts.
Why at the arena? Because it was like a commercial kitchen that you could use that had the scale that you needed? Got it.
They even brought in new equipment for me once the CFIA were coming at me. Public health was auditing me up there. So every time I got audited, they'd put in fresh machine in for me.
Wow.
So it was pretty good. It was awesome. It was really reasonable. But I started where I was only going once a month to, by the end of my first year, I think I was 3 or 4 days a week. And it just finally got to the point where I was roasting 7 days a week up there.
Wow.
And they were getting upset because other people wanted the kitchen and I had to be a community. And I was like, okay, we got to build. So we built a little kitchen here. I had it certified. That's where we're still at right now. And now I have like regular bags, printed, but it took me, I went step by step. I progressed my journey as more stores came in. We're out west, we're out east now. Yeah.
So tell me, that's my next question. Where can customers in Canada find these products? If you had to kind of list a few.
So for sure, Ontario, we're everywhere. Like we're I think 2021, I made the decision that I really want to focus on the smaller stores, smaller units. There's a lot out there. And they can really push my product, the smaller stores. So I'm not opposed to the bigger ones. And we're geared for it now, but the small guys have always been true and true. So we're in a lot of cheese shops all over Ontario. We're in farm stores, like big farm stores. We're in boutiques, baskets. So all over Ontario is the majority. We got picked up for Amazon wholesale. So we shipped and have been shipping everywhere with Amazon. And we've grown, I think, the same way slowly, but we have they're one of our biggest customers, Amazon. And this year we have 3 health food stores in Alberta. I have stores in BC. I have 3 different stores in BC. I'm working on a collaboration with 2 entrepreneurs out in BC. So I'm very excited with that. And we're in Quebec. We just got a hotel as well. So we're in the Maritimes at the Muir Hotel.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I'll put up your website as well, julesunderthekilt.com, on the video.
Awesome.
Elisabeth, it's been so nice chatting with you. I want to thank you for coming on and for participating in Freebruary. We've got you in all the draws, and I know a lot of people are checking out the brand, and hopefully people will discover something new. So I wanted to thank you for
I'm really excited. And I want to tell people, if you want to trial a nut, believe me, I like to share nuts. And I definitely want people's voices on this orange creamsicle because it helps us tweak our recipes. So believe me, once you want, just DM me. I'll ship them away. No problem.
Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best.
I liked your ice cream, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I had texted you I wanted to buy some. So I finally found some in our store. I like the chocolate one. It's probably mine.
Amazing. Eddie's favorite chocolate.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for participating and for having this video conversation with me.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
It's so awesome. Thank you.